And I think that they don't know what to do other than to try and come back to Britain and rebuild themselves as some sort of members of the royal family.
It's a terrible failure of judgment, a shocking betrayal, fundamental flaws.
And completely unforeseen, but the right thing to do. I mean, the point was that we'd always criticized Charles for being hesitant and backing away from controversy.
Absolutely. This is a real crisis for the monarchy. And I think there's more to come out.
See them filming and including in the Netflix series a private text message. Okay, they don't reveal the contents, but clearly a negative text message that William...
Absolutely. What we really...
Tom Bower just dropped details that have people heated, and it centers on Meghan Markle, a fading monarch's final chapter, and a massive streaming deal that had everyone asking questions. This goes deeper than most people realized. We're talking about that iconic balcony at Buckingham Palace. Tom Bower claims what Meghan and Harry allegedly wanted from that moment wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic. For years, critics have said money and image came first, and now his comments are adding serious weight to that narrative. Tom Bower, author of Revenge, sat down for a tense interview and hinted at even more in his upcoming book about what was unfolding behind palace doors. According to him, the balcony isn't just a place to wave at crowds, it's a statement. It signals who is officially embraced by the royal institution and who stands at its core. When members of the family appear there alongside the king and queen, it sends a clear message to the world. You belong. You represent continuity. You are part of the monarchy's public face. Below, massive crowds fill the mall, cheering, celebrating tradition, and showing loyalty to the crown. But here's where things get uncomfortable. Bower suggests that when Harry and Meghan returned to Britain for the Jubilee, their focus may not have been sentiment or unity. According to his account, there was a bigger objective tied to visibility and global optics.
Now seeing is that both of them, having posed as the victim for so long, are really the aggressors. And what I really thought at the end of it as well was this, which I think is a very, very pertinent point.
A complete catastrophe.
I get a little heat. I get pushback when I say, what did the Queen think she was paying $12 million for? I mean, does the previous monarch...
Which is very revelatory, as you know, about Meghan and Harry. I got absolutely no help from the palace whatsoever, on the contrary.
In the godforsaken Sandringham estate. Believe me, it's really depressing there, and it doesn't stop raining at the moment. And what it showed was that she wasn't going to make any concessions.
And that's where this balcony controversy really takes off. According to Tom Bower, the plan was simple. Get that balcony shot, capture it on camera, secure it for the Netflix project. He claims there was an actual filming checklist, and the balcony moment sat right at the top. Not tradition, not family, not symbolism, content. A checklist, like it was a production schedule instead of a historic royal event. That detail alone has people shaking their heads. But what allegedly happened next is what really raised eyebrows. Tom Bower says Harry and Meghan brought their children to Windsor during the Jubilee so they could meet the Queen. At the time, the Queen was in very fragile health and in the final stage of her life. On the surface, it sounds touching. Great-grandchildren visiting their great-grandmother during a historic celebration, a private family moment. But Bower suggests there was more behind the visit. According to his account, the goal was to capture images and footage for their streaming series. He claims they wanted visuals, something powerful and emotional that could be used on screen. Inside that room, the situation reportedly shifted fast. Bower describes Harry and Meghan arriving prepared to document the moment, a deeply personal interaction involving a very elderly monarch and young children, was allegedly about to become filmed material. Then, as Bower tells it, a lady-in-waiting stepped forward and made it clear.
He's so judgmental towards them, and I mean this with the royal family too, but take everything she needs to help elevate herself. You know, like, if you can't stand these people or the idea of class, Harry and Meghan chase the shiny people, chase money, chase opportunities without doing their due diligence, and could end up in a similar scenario where their private emails and text messages might be read in discovery through a civil trial, or might end up out in the world.
Let me move on to Meghan and Harry. I think that they are at the moment facing a real crisis. Meghan and Harry's crisis, completely of their own making, is they have no major projects, no major money.
No cameras, no pictures. That decision stopped everything. The idea that someone had to step in and prevent filming during such a sensitive moment has fueled debate ever since. Palace officials, according to Bauer, were aware of the potential for footage being used commercially. That is why the instruction was firm and immediate. Bauer maintains that the couple hoped to include images of the Queen with her great-grandchildren as part of their project. But instead, the opportunity was blocked. No recording devices, no official photos released from that private meeting. For critics, that moment confirmed long-standing concerns about blending royal access with media deals. For supporters, it remains disputed and heavily debated. But the fact that the palace intervened speaks volumes about how cautious the environment had become. Then Bauer widens the lens. He argues that this controversy unfolded at the same time the monarchy was already under intense pressure because of Prince Andrew's situation connected to Epstein. That issue, he says, created serious reputational strain for the institution. Bauer goes further, suggesting that if additional evidence connected to Andrew and Epstein were ever made public, it could deepen the crisis significantly.
And she reached out to Victoria to get freebies. And I must say, it's always beyond Meghan. Meghan doesn't believe in reconciliation. Look at her appalling relationship with her father. She's a hard nut.
Meghan left Britain and then did the Oprah Winfrey interview. It's been really poisonous.
He references claims about possible recordings, though nothing of that nature has been publicly confirmed. The bigger picture, according to Bauer, is that the monarchy was navigating multiple storms at once: internal tensions, public scrutiny, media deals, legal controversies. And in the middle of it all, highly sensitive family moments were being guarded more tightly than ever. That's why, he suggests, the palace drew a clear line inside that Windsor room. Tom Bauer says the king sensed trouble long before it exploded publicly. According to him, Charles received a warning from contacts in Washington that more damaging information tied to Andrew could soon surface. That alert reportedly changed the mood inside the palace overnight. Soon after, William flew to Balmoral. Bauer explains that tensions had already been rising. At a funeral in London, Andrew appeared publicly in a way that, according to Bauer, left William deeply uncomfortable. It wasn't just about optics, it was about reputation. With global cameras watching, every appearance mattered. Bauer claims William went directly to his father and made his position clear. This situation could not continue. The monarchy was already facing heavy scrutiny, and Andrew's presence was intensifying it. Eventually, action followed. Andrew was asked to step back further from royal life. He was moved from Royal Lodge and formally removed from remaining official titles and duties. The message, according to Bauer, was that the institution had to protect itself. But here's where Bauer says the timing becomes critical. While the monarchy was managing intense pressure connected to Andrew's situation involving Epstein, Harry and Meghan were watching from California. Bauer suggests they saw instability. He believes they recognize that when an institution is under strain, leverage can shift.
Inspiration to provide Netflix with a royal balcony shot. Can you walk me through that? Because it's just so dirty. It's so filthy when you think about their objectives in going back and having that moment with the British royal family, where I think that they might have been booed during that trip. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they literally just go back so they can film things with Netflix, and they've got a checklist of what they want. And they're just using this family to build their own profile. And it makes me sick.
Well, I think in my book, I explain how.
According to Bauer, this created a major challenge for King Charles. Britain's image was already under strain because of Andrew. The palace was focused on containment and damage control. The last thing needed was more controversy tied to family members abroad. Bauer also raises questions about Harry and Meghan's financial standing. He says their media momentum has slowed. Their Netflix output has not expanded as once expected. Their foundation has reportedly scaled back operations. Revenue streams that once seemed guaranteed are no longer as visible. He uses a striking phrase to describe their position: running on empty tanks. Consider the reality he outlines: a large mortgage in Montecito, ongoing security costs, staff, a high-profile lifestyle that requires steady income. If major projects slow down, pressure builds quickly. Bauer points to setbacks. Meghan's podcast ended. Harry's book brought a substantial payment, but that was a one-time deal. Brand launches have struggled to gain traction. According to Bauer, what remains most valuable is their royal connection, their titles, the Sussex identity, the association with the crown. Bauer argues that this connection only holds weight if it appears active. Public images alongside senior royals reinforce relevance. Without that visibility, he suggests, their brand risks fading into the crowded world of celebrity culture. That, in his view, explains the push for high-profile appearances, the balcony, public...
All the proximity is membership.
Yeah.
When you stand on the balcony, you're part of the royal family. You're part of the target of tens of thousands of people in the Mall down to Buckingham Palace, cheering and attesting to their support for the monarchy. So to be on the balcony with the King and Queen and William and Kate would have been absolutely invaluable to Meghan and Harry. Of course, that was denied to them, and now they needed even more on the British royal family and on Britain now even more. And one doesn't know how her daughters are going to cope with it. I mean, she was pretty ruthless in her use of her daughters.
Events, photographs with William, Catherine, and the King. Bauer believes their long-term strategy has always centered on a hybrid model. Maintain royal prestige while operating independently. Keep the status, build commercial projects around it, and remain visibly linked to the institution. Whether that balance is possible remains the real question at the heart of this unfolding royal drama. The late Queen made her position clear years ago: you cannot be half in and half out. There is no middle lane when it comes to the monarchy. You are either fully committed to duty or you step away. That principle still echoes through every decision being made now. But Tom Bauer doesn't stop there. He shifts focus to Sarah Ferguson, and his words are blunt. He describes her as reckless with money and driven by financial appetite. Strong language, no filter. Why does that matter in the Meghan conversation? Because Bauer argues that the Yorks and the Sussexes followed similar patterns. He claims Ferguson leaned heavily on her royal ties in business ventures and sought financial backing from wealthy figures, including Epstein. According to Bauer, she leveraged access and connections in ways that blurred the line between royalty and commerce. He paints a picture of someone constantly chasing the next deal, spending quickly, needing more, struggling to reflect on mistakes. In his view, there's a repeated cycle.
Can't do that there's divorce on the horizon at all. I do think that he has no idea how to escape from their problem other than returning to Britain and assuming royal duties so that he has status and a purpose. I think she likes that idea because it gives her status and exposure, and she can sell more clothes or handbags or whatever on the back of appearing in Britain with the King or whoever she can stand next to. So, but I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. I don't think there's a chance that Harry will be able to pull this off. But I think he's going to try very hard because they've got no alternative.
Controversy, denial, then another attempt to monetize proximity to the crown. Bauer suggests the key difference is geography and control. Ferguson remained in Britain. The palace could manage appearances, limit exposure, and contain fallout. But Harry and Meghan operate from California. They are outside direct influence, outside daily oversight. That distance, Bauer argues, changes everything. Then he makes a striking claim. He says Harry and Meghan present a greater long-term risk to the monarchy than Andrew. Not because Andrew's situation wasn't serious, but because Andrew's consequences have already been imposed. Titles removed, public duties gone, residence changed. His role is now restricted and defined. In Bauer's view, Andrew's chapter is contained. Harry and Meghan, however, are independent. They control their own messaging, media projects, and public appearances. They can release interviews, documentaries, and statements without palace coordination. That unpredictability is what Bauer believes makes them harder to manage. He predicts they will continue pushing for relevance and connection. He points to the upcoming Invictus Games in Birmingham. Harry is expected to attend, and Bauer suggests that, if possible, Meghan would join him. Public appearances in Britain offer renewed visibility.
Brought their children to meet the Queen in Windsor. And as they walk into the room to meet the Queen, a lady in waiting steps forward and says, "No cameras, no pictures." And that's the one reason they came to England, because they wanted those pictures for their own film. And of course, the one thing they weren't allowed to do was use the Jubilee in the Netflix series as far as they wanted. So it was touch and go, but they were pretty strong here that if they broke the rules, that was it. One thing they wanted to appear, and of course they have appeared when they were married, but they wanted to appear with their children on the balcony. I think that's now again what they're trying to negotiate to do. because the balcony, after all, is pretty thin. But I don't think they'll get away with it. I don't think that.
Visibility reinforces brand value. According to Bauer, the ultimate symbol remains that Buckingham Palace balcony. A single photograph alongside senior royals would signal unity and status. It would show they are still within the royal orbit. That image alone, he argues, carries enormous weight. Bauer also notes Meghan's popularity in Britain has declined significantly. Public opinion matters in a constitutional monarchy. Optics shape stability. If large segments of the public resist a return, leadership has to consider that carefully. He then turns to William. Bauer is clear that William is focused on long-term stability. He believes William understands the reputational cost of prolonged controversy. He witnessed how Andrew's situation impacted public trust. He has children to think about. The next generation represents the future of the institution. In Bauer's analysis, William will draw a firm line. King Charles, as a father, may carry emotional complexity, but Bauer suggests William and Camilla prioritize institutional protection above personal sentiment. He even claims William previously influenced decisive action regarding Andrew. If necessary, Bauer believes he would do so again. The balcony in this context is more than architecture.
So much more. There's been so many more consequences to his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Are you in shock? Because the last time I saw you, you said this is worse than the abdication.
Well, absolutely. This is a real crisis for the monarchy. And I think there's more to come out. What we haven't yet seen in the tranche of files, which I think is still to come, will be video of Andrew. I mean, Epstein was well known for secretly filming people. And I think many of the photographs which we have seen, especially of Andrew over that girl on the floor, were all part of keeping together some sort of blackmail ammunition. So the film, which is bound to the video, which certainly must exist, could be absolutely devastating, which is why I think the royal family, the King and also the Prince of Wales, William, have been talking about helping the police because they anticipate now even worse revelations.
It symbolizes continuity. It represents who stands at the core of the monarchy moving forward. And according to Bauer, decisions about that future will be guided by caution, public trust, reputation, stability. He argues that protecting Britain's image remains the highest priority. Whether that involves limiting Andrew's public exposure or maintaining distance from Harry and Meghan, the goal is the same. Keep potential disruption at arm's length and safeguard the institution for the next generation. Now here's where everything starts to connect in a way that makes the bigger picture impossible to ignore. Tom Bauer isn't just talking about isolated incidents. He's laying out what he believes is a pattern of leverage, timing, visibility, and pressure. And when you step back and look at it from that angle, the balcony isn't just a photo op. It becomes a chess piece. According to Bauer, the monarchy right now is navigating one of the most delicate periods in decades. On one side, there is the ongoing reputational strain.
The king knew something bad was coming. According to Tom Bauer, Charles got a tip from Washington. They warned him. More damaging revelations were on the way. That's when William flew to Balmoral. Tom Bauer explains that William was embarrassed by Andrew at a funeral in London. Andrew was parading around like nothing was wrong. So William went straight to his father and said, "This cannot continue." And you know what? William was right. The king finally acted. Andrew was moved out of Royal Lodge in the middle of the night, stripped of his titles, banished to Sandringham.
For the secret security video that likely exists, that we believe he prepared for years for blackmail. Are you under the impression, or have you heard that the king is finding out about these details, these emails, these photos in real time? He's not being warned about.
Connected to Andrew and the broader fallout from his association with Epstein. That issue alone created international headlines, legal scrutiny, and deep public discomfort. Even though Andrew has stepped back from public duties, the shadow of that situation still lingers. On the other side, there is Harry and Meghan, operating independently from California, building media projects, speaking publicly, and maintaining global platforms. Bauer argues that this dual pressure places King Charles in an incredibly tight position. Every move has consequences. Every image sends a message. He suggests that the palace understands something critical. Symbolism matters more than statements. A carefully worded press release can be forgotten in a day, but a photograph on that balcony lasts forever. It becomes historical record. It becomes proof of inclusion. That's why, in Bauer's view, the balcony debate is so serious. If Harry and Meghan were to appear publicly beside senior royals again, it would instantly signal reconciliation. It would imply endorsement. It would suggest that all previous tensions are resolved. And Bauer questions whether that message is one the institution can afford to send. He also points to the financial angle again, not with speculation, but with timing. Media contracts have slowed.
Meghan is deeply unpopular here. And as the Queen's last words were, you can't play half in and half out. And that's what they'd want. On the other hand, William, under no circumstances, in my opinion, would allow Harry to come back, and Meghan would be certainly stopped midway across the Atlantic. Their problem is that they've got no future. I mean, as ever, all her products, of course, is a complete disaster. She's got no Netflix series. She hasn't got any project.
Public enthusiasm in some markets has cooled. Brand launches have faced setbacks. High-profile ventures have not consistently delivered long-term momentum. In that environment, proximity to royalty regains enormous value. Bauer frames it this way: titles without visibility fade. Visibility without access weakens. The most powerful combination is both. A public royal appearance reinforces status in a way that no press statement can replicate. That's why events like the Invictus Games matter so much. They are not just sporting events, they are diplomatic and symbolic stages. Cameras from around the world gather, leaders attend, crowds watch. Every seating arrangement, every handshake, every shared moment becomes analyzed. Bauer believes Harry understands that stage power deeply. He grew up inside it. He knows how much a single image can shift perception. But the palace knows that too. And that's where tension builds. Because according to Bauer, King Charles is balancing personal and institutional responsibilities at the same time. As a father, emotions are involved. As monarch, duty overrides sentiment. The monarchy is not just a family, it is a constitutional symbol representing national stability. He also notes something else. Public trust is fragile. After years of controversy, interviews, and global media cycles, fatigue has set in among many observers. Stability, not drama.
In a maze where to go. And so predictably. And so that is the problem. And for them to come back in the midst of the current royal crisis here would be impossible to imagine. I mean, an institutional risk to the British monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. A huge risk.
Really?
Absolutely. Because there's no doubt as they become more desperate financially and reputationally and seeking a purpose, they will do some very foolish things. And whatever Andrew has done, they will double the problem because they will not be controllable from London. So I do think that after Andrew, Charles and William do have this problem with the monarchy.
Is what leadership is now trying to project. If more instability emerges, whether from renewed internal conflict or revived media narratives, it risks reopening wounds that have barely begun to close. Bauer suggests that this is why William's role has become increasingly central. He represents continuity. He represents the future. His priority, according to Bauer, is safeguarding long-term credibility, especially for his children and the next generation of leadership. The balcony, again, becomes symbolic of that future. Who stands there signals who carries the torch forward. Bauer also makes clear that the Andrew situation, while still sensitive, has already resulted in formal consequences. Titles removed, public functions withdrawn, appearances limited. The framework for containment is in place. With Harry and Meghan, the structure is different. They are not inside the system anymore. They cannot be quietly reassigned or repositioned. Their global presence continues regardless of palace coordination. That independence is what Bauer describes as the real challenge. He believes any renewed public alignment would require extremely careful negotiation, conditions, boundaries, clarity.
Meghan and Harry's crisis, completely of their own making, is they have no major projects, no major money earners. And so they're more desperate than ever. And I think that they don't know what to do other than to try and come back to Britain and rebuild themselves as some sort of members of the royal family. I think that's what the Invictus Games, which is this very splendid competition for wounded servicemen, is going to start in Birmingham next year, but there's a rehearsal later in the summer. And Harry is determined to come And if he could, he'd bring Meghan and somehow work his way back in so that they have state. My feeling is that the king might.
Without that, mixed messaging could confuse both domestic and international audiences. Another layer Bauer hints at is timing. The monarchy is transitioning into a new era under King Charles. Early years of any reign are critical for setting tone and authority. External turbulence during that period can shape long-term perception. If additional revelations tied to Andrew and Epstein were ever to resurface, even in indirect ways, the institution would again face heavy scrutiny. Bauer's broader warning is about cumulative pressure. One controversy can be managed. Multiple overlapping crises create instability. And instability is the last thing the monarchy wants. So the current strategy, as Bauer presents it, is caution. Controlled appearances, limited engagement, clear hierarchy. Harry and Meghan, from his perspective, are testing whether doors can reopen. The palace, meanwhile, is testing whether those doors should remain closed. At the center of it all is image control, not in a manipulative sense, but in a structural one. Monarchies operate on symbolism. They survive through continuity, tradition, and carefully maintained public confidence. One miscalculated image can ripple outward for years. Bauer ultimately frames this as a long game. The monarchy thinks in decades, not headlines. Any decision about who stands beside the king in public must consider not just immediate reaction.
Oh, absolutely. A huge risk.
Really?
Absolutely. Because there's no doubt as they become more desperate, financially and reputationally and seeking a purpose, they will do some very foolish things. And whatever Andrew has done, they will double the problem because they will not be controllable from London. So I do think that after Andrew, Charles and William do have this problem with the Montecito royals.
But historical legacy. That is why the balcony debate refuses to fade. It's not about waving to a crowd, it's about endorsement, it's about alignment, it's about whether independence and institution can ever merge again without undermining both. And according to Tom Bauer, that question remains very much unresolved. William represents the future of the monarchy. He is the next king, and according to Tom Bauer's analysis, he is focused on protecting that future from anything that could weaken it. Stability, continuity, and public trust are his priorities. In Bauer's view, that commitment is exactly why the institution will endure this turbulent chapter. Bauer has a new book on the way, and he says it will dive even deeper into what unfolded behind the walls of Montecito and inside royal circles. He spent years researching, interviewing sources, and piecing together timelines. His conclusion aligns with what many critics have argued. Sensitive family moments were blurred with media ambitions, filming priorities were carefully mapped out, and financial pressure has shaped strategic decisions. He claims there was a filming checklist. He argues there was urgency around capturing key royal imagery. He suggests money concerns are driving renewed efforts to reconnect with royal status. And in his view, the idea of returning fully to royal life, especially appearing again on that Buckingham Palace balcony, faces firm resistance. Bauer believes William will not support that return. He believes public opinion in Britain remains cautious. And he argues that the monarchy, as an institution, will ultimately be shielded from further disruption. If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Share this video with someone who's been following this story and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think William is right to draw the line? I'll see you in the next one.